exactly this logo which I designed.
Oh,
so
okay.
Martin and I sent them the fans and said, why don't you call the album death metal? It's going to appeal to a much wider audience.
Cool.
And they used the logo of my fans.
So genuinely, you can say you coined the term death metal.
No. The term death metal was used in the underground by a handful of people, and we were just part of that handful of people.
Okay.
But I don't know. We didn't invent that. As many other things, I think we were just there at the right time, and we loved all that stuff, so we were part of the first wave.
Okay, because...
But I don't want to take credit in an unjustified manner.
I'm going to say, as far as your vocals and also how heavy and low and down-tuned everything was, I never heard another band before you guys that struck me like, whoa, this is so heavy, it's unbelievable.
You see, that's the funny thing. Music wasn't down-tuned.
No.
Everybody thought it was down-tuned, but it wasn't down-tuned, you know. And, of course, we were cutting-edge extreme metal. You know, we were one of a handful of bands with Hellhammer and then with Celtic Frost. There maybe were like half a dozen, maybe a dozen at that time. We're talking about the first half of the 1980s, you know, that you could consider to be really extreme metal, not just like heavy metal on a different level. You know, there were a lot of bands inspired by the new wave of British heavy metal, inspired by Judas Priest or Iron Maiden,
right.
But there were only a handful of really extreme bands, you know. And Celtic Frost was one of them, you know. Of course, like Venom being the main inspiration for most, probably almost all of these bands. Venom and a couple of hardcore punk bands like Discharge, for example. You know? But because otherwise, what else do you have? You had Motorhead, Iron Maiden. You know, that was about as extreme as it got. You know, and of course with Hellhammer we were considered to be black metal, and we actually started as a black metal band because we were complete Venom clones when we started out, you know. We were absolutely, I mean, monikers like Satanic Slaughter, you know, or Slate Necros. That was directly inspired, trying to do our own take of Mantas and Kronos, you know.
You were Slate Necros?
I was Slate Necros, yeah, that's
you
right.
You were Satanic Slaughter. Yeah. And who was the drummer?
Denial Fiend.
Denial Fiend, right.
Bruce Day. And we were like blueprint black metal, you know, first generation black metal, and of course you had Merciful Fate coming on, but musically speaking, Merciful Fate wasn't black metal. The only other black metal band that did come up at that time, a little bit later on, was Bathory.
Right.
Of course, who were also following the blueprint of Venom 1 to 1. You know, although Kronos, although Quarton keeps saying that he never heard Venom up until like the second Bathory record. You know. Yeah, it's true, but you know this was the only other extreme band in that vein, and we wanted to get away from the black metal thing, because all of a sudden you had bands like Running Wild, writing songs like Adrian, Son of Satan, and then a whole lot of other bands were jumping on that like satanic black metal wagon and didn't have anything to do with it, you know, and you had a lot